Out right here on Inside the Locker Room, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the home of Alabama Sports Tide 100.9.
WTUG HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station.
One man to beat, you can forget about it. Touchdown, Alabama.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pitch it, and our running back coach didn't take the biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. That's the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're live, local, and ready to get things going. I want to invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline, 205-342-9904. The Alabama One hotline is open for business. We made a change up last week with how we do things. We want to invite you to make sure that you stay connected in all aspects. So don't forget about the social media outlets where you can also get in on the conversation. You can post your thoughts, your comments, your questions, whatever you may have right there on social media, and we'll bring that into the conversation as well. It's a Tuesday, so that means we have DC Capstone Report joining us, and he used to start things off in the second quarter, but we have him joining us at the top of the hour and top of the show. So we'll, make a circle back on some things we talked about on yesterday that we didn't really get too deep into, as this is a bye week. So we got plenty of time to get to all the conversation that we need to have. It'll include a little review of this past Saturday. It'll include some talk about the upcoming showdown with LSU and how that has now become a much more interesting game thanks to the beatdown that LSU gave the Ole Miss Rebels. People can't hold their water, pressure burst pipes. Now people see what it's like to be Alabama week in and week out. That's a big question. Will Tennessee even hold water this weekend in their big matchup, or will they be looking ahead to their showdown with the Georgia Bulldogs? All of that conversation, plus what you want to bring to the table, is all ready. Good morning, X. Good morning, DC. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Good morning. We're doing great, guys.
All right. Well, let's get things going, DC. We'll start with you talking a little good, bad, ugly. We briefly hit on it yesterday, but we can always circle back as we talk about the good, bad, and ugly from this weekend. We'll start off with the good. What was your good coming out of this game?
Well, I think my good was the step up of the defense and some individual players on defense.
Thought they did a really good job. Had a good game plan. Love the dime package, moving people around. Even with the lack of some of the starters that used to play because of injury, they were able to still do a good job of playing against the Mike Leach offense and not giving the quarterback time to throw the deep ball. So I hope that translates on to later in the season. Really, really good about the defense.
Yeah, DC, when you look at the the dime package that we chose to come out with more with against Tennessee, Will Anderson actually being the third down lineman. Um, did we not go with more of a dime look? And in some ways, maybe it wasn't that we weren't in dime as much as it was the fact that we had 2.5 to 3 safeties against Tennessee. Um, is that what the difference was? Because Tennessee had just a bigger threat in the running game.
Yeah, I think it was the big difference was the bigger threat in the running game. Plus, I don't think that Mississippi State used their wide receivers the way Tennessee did. I think the biggest um, difference in the Tennessee offense was the Tennessee put the wide receivers way outside, really outside the numbers. Use pre-snap movement to isolate which wide receiver was on who, and then try to take advantage of matchups. And I don't think Mississippi State did that. Nor do I think Mississippi State's offensive line was good as Tennessee's in order to keep the pass rush out long enough for the quarterback to be able to see which receivers were open.
Yeah, X, if you're playing against Alabama, do you not have a wide package with stacked wide receivers after watching that Tennessee game?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think Mississippi State did it a little bit, not as much as Tennessee did, but I definitely would have it in the game plan moving forward.
DC, as we look back on that particular game, um, uh, defense played well. But what were your thoughts about seeing number 7 out there on the field?
Well, I was glad to see Rick's get an opportunity. I think he's been making some progress in practice. I think it was probably the time to see him. I think he's been bothered by some injuries that everybody doesn't know about. I mean, how many of us knew about all the injuries that was going on with the defensive linemen? I think we hear about some of the high-profile injuries, but we don't see about some of the other things that have been slowing people down. So
You think that Riggs hadn't played because of an injury?
Yes, I do. Yeah, based on what I'm hearing from some of the training staff and people I know.
Yeah, he had an injury at one point, but he's played off and on, and you know.
Yeah, but I don't think he's played 100%, nor has he been able to practice enough to understand the defense enough to play at full speed, play the way he wants to play.
DC, I think you and I are going to disagree on that. I think Saban them using some excuses. I think that young man, when he's come out there in the few mop up duties, he seemed to play well enough.
Well, that may be your opinion, but that's not the opinion of everybody that I know that kind of knows what's going on inside of what's been happening at practice and how he's been feeling after practice.
Saban just said he couldn't learn it, so like I said, we can agree to disagree. I think Saban. I think the young man embarrassed Saban and that coaching staff. I just find it ironic, and this is just me talking my opinion. I find it ironic that the week that you absolutely get annihilated, that now all of a sudden he's healthy enough to play. But I mean, I've heard some stuff on his injury, but not to the degree that he was not good enough to play at some level, especially when you watch that Tennessee game. And I know it was regarding his back was one of them, but I'm just glad to see him out there, and we'll watch to see how Saban them uses him going forward. So I'll flip over to what was your bad.
My bad was no consistency on offense. No consistency. To my opinion was that the offense was very vanilla. Very play calling was. If Bryce Young hadn't have improvised and extended the time on plays, we wouldn't have had some of the first downs that we had. So we wouldn't have had some of the touchdowns we had. So I was just really my bad was the offensive play and the play calling.
X, any response to the play calling or anything you want to add on the bad side?
Yeah, I mean, I think the play calling was just really inconsistent. And I know that luckily for Alabama, they have a guy like Bryce Young at quarterback, and I think he's made this offense be special for 2 years now when the play calling is probably actually been very subpar compared to who we have on this team.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, DC.
Very evident.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think another thing that X has pointed out is very evident in this game is that Bryce Young was the reason we had the offense we had. But when you look at it, and we began to wane and began to go into a lull, and a lot of that lull has to do with. I mean, I don't care how great Bryce Young is, if you're not getting the reps in practice that you need to get, there's going to come a time where you're going to have a problem throwing the ball late in the game, just because of the reps that you're not getting. I mean, it takes reps in practice to build up the muscle memory to be able to build up the strength to throw the ball and put it in the right place. Not to mention the timing that it takes to work on. And so, even as great as he was, he couldn't do it all himself, and no one had called any plays that helped him and put us in a position to him to play better late in the game. So I think that's one of the reasons our offense began to be stalled late in the game.
Oh, absolutely. His arm, his shoulder, man, it looked fatigued. Some of those passes, he was finding the right guy. He was doing the same thing at the end of the game that he did at the beginning of the game, rolling out, scrambling, extending plays, but he just couldn't get enough juice. It didn't like he'd get enough juice on the ball distance-wise. A couple times on slants, it looked like he was just short. And I think, to your point, DC, I think that was fatigue in terms of what happened with him on that. And, we say inconsistent, but I say it's consistently inconsistent. So that is what we have with Bill O'Brien for the rest of the year. And, I'll ask you a question, DC. Is McLaughlin that much of that important to the running game, or is it that we ran the ball against Tennessee as effective as we did because we went into that game with the mindset that we wouldn't have Bryce to throw the ball as much, even though he ended up throwing it 52 times. But is McLaughlin that big a difference, or is it a combination of those two?
I think it's a combination. I think McLaughlin is a difference. I think he's a better center. I think he does a more aggressive style of blocking, especially in the run game. I think he and Tyler Booker together give us the best option for running the ball, in my opinion. But I think to hit to your point, my ugly is the lack of any running game whatsoever. But I don't think it's the players that we have. I think it's the fact that they didn't even keep running the ball. They didn't try to run the ball, in my opinion, in our own running plays, true running plays where you stand up and run the ball. The runs that we did run were more run pass options. And when you give our quarterback the choice to run pass option, I think most of the time he's going to choose to pass the ball just because he is the best player on the field and give him the opportunity to do that. But still, there are times where you need to just put your team in a position to run the ball. And I don't think I do think that's part of it, McLaughlin not being in there, but I don't think it's all of it. A lot of that goes back to play calling again, putting your team in a position to run the ball.
Yeah, and I go ahead, X. I thought you were about to say something.
No, you're good.
And I would say that McLaughlin I don't know. They saw something that made them feel better about Dalcourt, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. But I will have to say that McLaughlin has got the advantage of playing the majority of the Arkansas game with our backup quarterback in Milroe, the entire Texas game with Milroe, and the Tennessee game where I know they put in a lot of design runs and more call runs. Even though Bryce ended up throwing, like I said, 50-something times, they still had more plays that week that were not RPO from practice. And so he has gotten the advantage of that. And I think that matters. And I'm not, making an excuse for Dalcourt. But then Dalcourt starts this week, and I think we came in thinking Bryce was going to be fully prepared and ready to go. We're going to get to break here. Coming back on the other side, DC and X will talk about I have something I want to talk about on the bad side that I briefly mentioned yesterday. And also Virgil Williams asked some question, made a statement. He was doing that earlier in the game also. So was it his arm was tired or was he just off a little? We'll respond to that. Virgil, I think that he was off early for one reason that DC mentioned, and I think he was off late for the reason I mentioned. And I think both of them coming together is the reason he had the number of incomplete passes that he had. Speaking of Bryce Young, coming back on the other side, we'll keep the conversation going right here on the Martin Houston Show with DC Capstone Report. There's Martin and Xavier. More conversation coming up next.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Everything looking pretty good as we start our Tuesday morning. Now, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, of course, give me a call, 205-886-8886. If it's time for a new vehicle, it's time for you to visit Townsend Nissan. They're your hometown dealer. Go see them. You'll save thousands. I'm Captain Ray.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Okay, 3 more climbers, 7 loggers.
Ted's sustainably sourced logging company is growing a new branch.
What about truck driver contracts?
Which means a new HR manager will be the first hire to fall.
Then we'll need to staff up the warehouse.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Becoming windy at times later today. Increasingly cloudy. Showers and thunderstorms are likely this afternoon and this evening. Some of the storms could be severe. The high today 79. Colder late tonight with a low at 50. Tomorrow clearing with a high at 68. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at softmarkdesign.com.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show. The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We have DC Capstone Report on with us. Virgil also added the RPO needs to be put to bed and stop allowing anyone the decision or passing or running. Give him the option to audible so that the line will know what's coming. I agree with that in part, DC. And X, I do believe that we need to call runs at times, keeping that offensive line aggression going. But I also think the RPO is a good part of the game when you have Bryce Young. And I also think that you should have some audible. We called it check with me virtually every play. So I think you can use all three of those. Sometimes you just come out and you call the run, boom, and they stick with it. Other times, because sometimes you just have to commit to the run, DC. And then other times you come out, and I think it's okay to have a check with me where you come to the line, he reads it. Because if he can read it at a snap, you know he can pre-read what they're doing for the most part. But the RPO does give you a little bit more control after the snap or at the snap, which allows a really good quarterback to see something that may look like a run defense disguised, a pass defense disguised as a run defense. And when that linebacker steps up, that slant right behind it is perfect. You got a pass, a corner that jumps to the inside at the snap, and the running back, the wide receiver runs a fade. Just so there is some benefits, but sometimes you just need to run the ball, DC, and show a commitment to the run. And I think we went away from the run way too early against Mississippi State. Thoughts?
Most definitely. I think that I agree somewhat with the RPOs. I think we're overused sometimes.
Yes.
I think we overuse it to a point that gets our offensive line in a disadvantage. And when you win the RPOs, you want to be in that advantage that you're talking about. They take the advantage on the slant, take the advantage on the gaps, let the quarterback be able to read and be a threat to run. And the RPOs are very important. But they're important, I think, when you use them at times when they're unexpected. We have to I believe, dedicate ourselves to run the ball more, especially in these next few games that we're coming up against. LSU and Ole Miss, definitely Ole Miss gives up so many running yards. I mean, you can run the ball against them, and you need to be dedicated to the run. And when I say dedicated to the run, the number of times in the past where we've had teams at Alabama under Coach Bear Bryant, under Coach Gene Stallings, under different coaches along the way, we've had opportunities to run the ball, and we run the ball and gain a yard, run the ball and gain 2 yards, run the ball and gain a yard, run the ball and gain a yard. Then all of a sudden it opens up and you continue to run and gain 6, 10, 9 yards. You know yourself, Martin, being a running back, you don't just run the ball 2 times, get stopped for 2 yards, and then give up on it and go away from it. And I think that's what we've done in some of these instances where we just give up on the run too soon in the game. I think we did that against Mississippi State.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And X, is the RPO a lazy play caller's dream? They don't have to really think and call the right play. They just kind of throw a play out there, throw an RPO on it, and then and it becomes a lazy man's when it's overused like that.
Yeah, if it's overused, I mean, it can be great in certain situations, depending on the down and distance. If it's 3rd and 2, that's a great time for an RPO, in my opinion. You bring the running back. You can bring it to the running back, hand it off. He gets 2 to 5 yards, or you can hit that quick slant. But if you're using it constantly, it doesn't allow the offensive line to be aggressive in the run game. And that's the biggest problem Alabama has had at times this year. And I think it is an aspect of, you look at the Tennessee game and the Texas A&M game, the Arkansas game with Seth starting, and once Bryce got hurt, Bama went to run plays.
Right.
And it benefited the offense as a whole. So I think, yeah, it can be if you overuse it.
Yeah, it can be a lazy man's tool. And I think that when you call run plays, those offensive linemen can get up and cut their blocks off. Some of the hold penalties that we get is because the linemen, they're not sure if it's a run play or not. And so they can't fire off and just run through the guy. So they're trying to reach that guy before they get to the 2.5 yard mark versus running after that guy, pushing him, and then turning him at 3.5, 4, 5 yards down the field. So definitely, I call it a poor man. It could be a poor man's dream or a poor man's nightmare. Unfortunately, it's been a dream because we have Bryce Young, but not so much if you don't have a quarterback at the Bryce Young level. But we saw this coming with the run game many moons ago when we started going more to it, and we have not recovered, in my opinion, since we started going to that and being that dominant run team. And I want everybody to hear me. I'm not saying run the ball the same number of times we used to run it in the old days. That football has changed. What I'm saying is run the ball when you need to run it, and think about how many times against Tennessee, against Texas, A&M that we couldn't do our 4-minute offense because we're just not geared to be great running teams. We got a call coming in, DC and X. We got Jamal from Ohio. Jamal, you're in with the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Alabama One Hotline, and DC Capstone Report joins us. What's on your mind, sir? Is Jamal there? All right. Look like we're having a little trouble getting Jamal in. We'll circle back with.
I can hear you, Martin.
Huh?
I heard Jamal.
Well, go ahead and respond. I can't hear him on my side. Go ahead.
Hey, Jamal, how you doing? This is DC with DC Capstone Report here on the Martin Houston Show. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. I'm calling because called a couple weeks ago. I kept mentioning putting Eli Ricks in the game. DC, let me tell you something, man. I watch football with my 11-year-old son. He's been watching Alabama football since he was 7. It's like a Saturday tradition for us now together. And we're sitting there watching the Mississippi State game, and he's seen Eli Ricks, and he was like, "Dad, that guy's been on the bench." And we've been so spoiled. We've been so, and like people say, Alabama fans have been quote unquote spoiled by when you see Alabama football players on the field. You expect that Nick Saban is putting the best of the best. So the guys starting on Alabama is the best guys couldn't beat, and that should go without saying, right? When you think about a Nick Saban-led team, and when you see Eli Ricks and what he was doing to Mississippi State, it was literally like a breath of fresh air. Like, is this the talent we're keeping on the bench? What else is back there? I mean, if you mean to tell me that Nick Saban in the first 6 games of the season didn't say, you know what? Okay, what we're doing is not working. Let's get this guy out here. And I don't know if he was in trouble. I don't know if he had academic issues. There got to be something said about this, man, because this is embarrassing to Alabama that we had this guy of this caliber just riding the bench. And one more thing, Martin and Xavier, DC, can you imagine if we had, I know we can't live in the past, but can you imagine if we had Sarkisian or we had Dabble or if we had Lane Kiffin with these young receivers and the talent we have? I mean, think about it, Martin. If you guys really look at the replays, most of Bryce Young's biggest plays are off scrambles, off him improvising. It's not off Bill O'Brien's plays. He's running for his life, and somebody gets separation. Now he can throw it. It's always been off him scrambling, running for his life. It's usually not plays that Bill O'Brien called. Bryce Young had to improvise.
Yeah.
Now imagine having Lane Kiffin with Bryce Young. like I said before to you, Martin, man, I think it's going to be a travesty and embarrassing to Alabama University if Bryce Young does not get a ring.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thanks, Jamal. DC, I'll let you and X respond to those two different questions he asked us there. DC.
Well, Jamal, great observations. First of all, on the Eli Ricks case, based on my understanding, Eli Ricks had some off the field trouble that slowed him down early in the year before the season started. So he was a little in the doghouse a little bit that way. Then he had an injury that took place. Then the injury slowed him down a lot, and it took a while to him to get back to game time experience, and it took a while for him to be able to play. But I think he's on the scene now. I don't see any reason he came out of the game, according to what I understand, without any more further injuries and without any flare-ups. So I think he's there to stay in that position. So I think you had a good observation there. The second thing is, yes, I think the play calling is suspect, and I think that it would be difficult. It would be something that would be unexpected if Bryce Young leaves here without a ring. He's that great of a player. You're definitely correct in that. I believe that down the road, if we don't change some of the play calling, if we don't see something different down the road, then there needs to be make a change there somehow. My observation, Martin, I wanted to tell you is, I think I hate to blame Bill O'Brien, but if you look at the other offensive coordinators that we've had, going back to Brian Dable to Lane Kiffin to Steve Sarkisian, all those play callers, we did run pass options, but it wasn't. My thought is not to do away with run pass options, but run them the way they're supposed to be run for offenses that really run them well, and that is your first option is to run the ball and make sure everybody knows that you run the ball, and to pull the ball at a certain time, do the slants. It's when we really made headway during those games. When we made down the field plays, it was always on the play action passing where we hit down the field balls, and I think that's what's been missing in this offense is pulling the ball and hitting the slants. And I think if we could change that part of the run pass option and make them used in a way that will be surprise to the other team, run the ball, then hit the slant, then we'll see a lot better offense out of this team.
Yeah, I mean the RPO, it is not pass. It's not pro pass read option. A run option is run pass option, and the DBs don't react to our run. When we fake the run, they're still in great position. So the slant, you catch on everybody talk about we don't have guys that get over the top. Y'all know that that Williamson took quite a few because he called it 6-7 yards. Smith called 6-7 yards. Judy called 6-7 yards. Ruggs called it 6-7 yards across the middle of the field and then split the DBs. It's not all our deep balls have not been somebody running over and past people. I also think that your route combinations matter, and we just don't have great route combinations. It appears that because everybody said, well, our guys can't get separation, can't get open. So you're telling me, and X, I'll let you respond, then we'll get the break. But you're telling me that these other teams recruit lesser wide receivers than we do. We recruit better DBs than they do. But their lesser wide receivers are able to keep our wide receivers from getting out, but our great DBs can't keep their wide receivers from getting wide open. I mean, y'all think about Tennessee. Tell me the quality of the route that Hyatt ran. Somebody tell me one quality route that they saw Hyatt run. Right?
I don't think you can.
X, what was that?
I don't think it was route running. I think it was go route.
Yeah, he just literally went straight down the field, but they put him in a great combination and put the defense in conflict. X, I'll let you close out, and then we'll get the break and come back.
Yeah, just going off of what Jamal said, it's still frustrating that all of a sudden Mississippi State week that Eli Ricks is healthy and that nothing's wrong, that you didn't even try to make an adjustment in the Tennessee game. And you see that a lot with Alabama, that with replacing a guy, they won't do it a lot during the course of a game. It'll be the next week. And as far as offensive play calling goes, Bill O'Brien is far below what we've had. And I mean, you're talking about since Kiffin, Dayball, Loxley, Sarkisian, we had a great run, and unfortunately, O'Brien hasn't lived up to half of those expectations, and it's affected the team.
Absolutely. And so I think Dayball, like I said, he just doesn't run it when it's appropriate. I mean, not Dayball, but O'Brien. And I think all of that goes together. I would love to have seen Bryce with one of those guys that we mentioned, but we don't have that. Hey, we did not address Virgil's earlier question, so we'll come back and get that. DC and X, what he was doing early in the game. So was his arm tired early, or was he just off a little? We'll address that on the other side. We'll circle back to a couple follow-up on the Eli Ricks story. I got a comment and question to kind of throw some water on Eli Ricks not playing just because of injury. Just to give a different question insight from what I saw there. I have a bad that I want to talk about, and that's dealing with Fowler and what he said about Burton that was incorrect about him being in anger management. And why is that story still out there? And get your guys' thoughts on whether or not you feel like he should have been suspended or not. And then we'll get our ugly to close things out. All of that conversation and more coming up right here on the Martin Houston Show.
This is a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
I'm Kim Rankin with your Tide Sports Update. The Alabama Crimson Tide football team remains at number 6 in this week's AP poll. The Alabama versus LSU kickoff time has been announced. The Alabama women's soccer team won the regular season SEC championship after its 2-0 victory against Florida on Sunday night.
This has been a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update. Run it again! For more info on these stories and more, download the Tide 100.9 app. It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi.
The Literacy Council of West Alabama serves 9 counties by getting books into the hands of children and adults, encouraging students to read, write, and stay in school, providing community resources and role models, and encouraging adults to get their GED. Please check out their newest little libraries at U-Perk Coffee Shop, Catch a Taste Restaurant, and Haycourt Apartments in Tuscaloosa. The Literacy Council of West Alabama serves 9 counties by getting books into the hands of children and adults.
Has the pandemic affected your business? Even with more and more customers going online in the past 5 years, online business has grown greatly due to the pandemic. Now more than ever, it's important to have a strong online presence so that customers can find your business and products easily. That's where Town Square comes in to help. Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free competitive analysis to see how your business stands up to the competition. And if you're one of the first to sign up, you'll get $500 in free advertising on this radio station. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
Hey, Nissan, how do you get to the top?
Calculating. Proceed to 1959. Take a hard left in East Africa at the 71 Safari Rally. Veer right for 19 off-road championships in the Baja Desert. Proceed towards Moab. Take the trail to Hell's Revenge. Include steep incline. Continue for the next 1,000,000 miles.
Where to first again?
60 years, millions of miles, and the capability to take you anywhere. This is the new Nissan.
Did you hear about Taco Bell's apology? Yeah, they apologized for going too far with their breakfast. Like the naked egg taco and chicken biscuit nachos? It was too much. All you need in the morning is tasty, simple food. Like the breakfast crunch wrap. Fluffy eggs, melty cheese, sausage, crispy hash browns, wrapped in a warm tortilla. Or, as some call it, a breakfast crunch thing. Grab one today, only at Taco Bell. At participating U.S. Taco Bell stores during breakfast hours only until 11 a.m. while supplies last. Contact local store for hours and participation with vary.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our Pep Talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're speaking with DC Capstone Report. We want to remind you that during the broadcast, you can support the Martin Houston Speaks page by sending stars. It's a digital gift that helps me earn cash and money and continue to provide more great content. Looking as we get closer to running a couple specials, maybe doing a little Iron Bowl special, and of course, Alabama hold up their end. There'll be some college football playoff specials as well. So send those stars in, help me be able to do it. And while we're waiting on those stars to come in, we'll continue to thank our great supporters like Taco Casa. Taco Casa, quality, taste, value, and the biggest cactus in town. Make them your choice for lunch and or dinner. That's Taco Casa, tacocasa.com. X, I'll let you start off, and then DC, you can respond to it. But Virgil made a statement, as we said earlier in the first quarter. He said he was doing it that earlier in the game also. So was it his arm was tired, or was he just off a little? And I made the statement, DC, that and X, that he was looked like he was really tired, leaving the ball short. Timing was off. Was his arm tired and all that early on, or what else was going on that made Bryce have what we would call an off game for him?
I probably think it's a combination of things, of just being a little bit off. But to be coming off of a shoulder injury that could have been a lot worse than what it was, he took a beating at Tennessee, and he threw the ball 52 times. You add all those things up, it can be a recipe for a tired arm and just missing a little bit even the week after, because I still don't think he's throwing the ball a lot in practice. I know late in the game, they showed him getting his shoulder massaged with the machine and things in that nature. So I just think it was a little bit of everything, coming off an injury, 52 throws, taking a beating, and probably just being a little bit off.
DC?
Well, I think X is right. I go a little further to say I think the reason that it is, those are all his soreness, his throwing the ball a lot, and everything is symptoms of the problem. The problem is practice.
Yeah.
The whole idea of practice is people get it wrong. I think you practice till you get it right, but that's not true. You practice till you can't get it wrong.
Right.
And repetition in practice is what you do, and that establishes rapport, that establishes timing. That establishes the strength of your arm for late in the game to make those same throws that you can make early in the game. So I think it was like X said, it was a combination. His timing was off early, his arm strength wasn't there late, and therefore he didn't have a great game. And all the things that X talked about culminated in the fact that he couldn't practice and hadn't been able to practice. And hopefully this bye week will give him an opportunity to get well.
Yeah, and I would say both of you nailed it, and specifically addressing it. I would say early on was the timing piece of it. When he was off a little, but he was off because of practice, as you both said, and it was more affecting the timing routes. The other part that I would say is late, he was missing the balls because when he scrambles, when you see him throwing it from the pocket, that's timing most of the time, and that's what was happening in the first half. Second half, it was on scrambles that he usually completes when he made everybody miss him and somebody scrambled with him and got open. And Curtis Lewis added pathetic play calling along with a tired arm. Agree with that. And I would throw one last thing in, guys. Think about how many more receivers are playing now, and Bond and all those guys. Those guys have worked their way into more playing time, and I think they're still moving receivers around, so that impacts timing. So it was a lot coming into it. But here's the thing, and we'll go to break so we have time to come back and talk about it. Like I said, I want to get to that the Chris Fowler thing and then the ugly today, DC. But when you look at everything that happened in that game and what's going on with Bryce and all of that, I guess you just you look at Bryce, look at what he's doing, and how is it that coming off of a shoulder surgery, has he had any 2 games where he's thrown the ball 87 times if you add 2 games together? Think about that for a second. Coming off of an injury, he threw the ball 87 times. That it just I mean,
Yeah, I think that's his biggest 2-game stretch. He's probably had some, he's 70s, but pushing 90, that's a lot on your arm coming off of
right.
What could have been a serious injury.
Right, that's what I'm saying. This is with us trying to protect his arm. He threw it almost 90 times. Real quick before we go to break, because I do want to get to the good, bad, and ugly. DC, I know you said that Rich was injured, and Curtis Moore said, well, that may have kept him from learning Saban style. Will somebody tell me, have we had a DB play with the style that Rich played? Rich did not play Saban style of defense. That's not the technique that Saban teaches. In my opinion, thoughts?
Yeah, he was in a lot of press.
I mean, in the way he played the ball, he was always coming forward, knocking the ball. Nobody was getting over the top of him. Just technique. That's the question I have. And if he could have did that, and he's had moments where he played DC in mop-up duty. That's why I say that I think it's more to it than just the injury. I know the injury slowed him down at the beginning of the season, but I look at it from that standpoint and go, he still didn't play Saban style, and we saw him in spot moments in other games. And Saban usually will if it's an injury, he usually will say it at some point, but all he's ever said was this kid couldn't learn the defense. So that's the only reason I say that. Any thoughts on that before we come back and finish out good, bad, and ugly?
Oh no, only thought I have is you're right. I think he didn't play Saban's style, but he played the style of play that he was aggressive style that Saban asked all of his defensive backs to play in this game. And I think we see DeMarco Hellams, we saw Kool-Aid McKinstry play a little different style of defense in this game as well. So, but I still go back to the fact that I'm not saying he was injured every time he didn't play, but I'm saying his injury deterred him from playing in practice the way that Saban wanted to see him play in order to get on the field. And I think if you want to criticize Saban for that, that's what he's done every time. The players who play in practice are the ones that play in the games, and sometimes the best players don't play the best in practice. They play the best in games.
And then when you see them flash in the game, like I've seen Rick, this wasn't the first time I've seen Rick flash. Rick flashed every time he's been on the field, in my opinion, even in those little small moments. And that was enough for me to go, okay, he may not practice well, but when you're getting torched the way we got torched at Tennessee, he needs to have been injured to not get on that field in that moment or be in the doghouse. And I don't, like I said, I don't know. I leave it up to, I say, hey, he's the coach. He makes the decision. I'm just trying to figure it out as a fan watching it and going, how do you let that happen? But DC, if what's his name had a better arm, Kool-Aid played well, but he was beat on that back shoulder throw probably half of the time, if not more. So to me, he still looked like he was playing that same run down the field. And they even said it on television, if they throw it short, it's there. The pass, they literally said, if you throw it short, the pass interference is there because we trail, we don't turn around, and we rip through the ball. Ricks played on top, played the ball, and knocked down as many forced passes, breakups as the other guys. Coming back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation. Quickly, we'll go through bad and ugly on the other side. You listen to the Martin Houston Show with DC Capstone Report on Tide 100.9.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Walker County schools will close at noon today. That's due to the threat of severe weather this afternoon. A slight risk for damaging winds 60 miles per hour. Quarter-size hail and a possible tornado or two has been issued by the Storm Prediction Center for all of West Alabama. That's between noon and about 5 or 6 p.m. today. A wind advisory will go into effect at 1 p.m. That will last until 9 tonight. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. If you're looking for a way to add value to your home, make your flower beds pop, make your landscaping stand out from your neighbors, then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help you do just that. They have numerous styles, but they feature the Moroccan Stone Curb Series, which includes 4 great styles and unlimited color choices. That's Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. They are the one that can help you stand out from your neighbors. Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, 205-331-6823. You may also find yourself with the need for a custom size stone or custom shaped stone. Then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help with that as well. Paul Fuller and his team are waiting on your call right now for that free quote. And if you tell them that Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show told you to stop by, you'll get a big discount. So call Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing at 205-331-6823 or visit them online at Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, LLC.
It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi.
Girl Scouts do more than sell cookies. They're exposed to so many opportunities in science or outdoors, animal medicine, robotics, or they can find their next favorite thing. Girls can laugh, get silly, or be serious when they want to. They can learn skills in goal setting, money management, decision making, people skills, and business ethics. Girl Scouts is all about making the world a better place. Girl Scout troops are currently forming in your neighborhood. Learn more today at girlscoutsnca.org or call 800-734-4541.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa. Quality is number one. You got to start with a good quality product, but it's got to be at a good value to the customers.
Everything is about quality.
You just can't beat the quality, taste, and value.
And it's because we take pride in providing you with the best.
Good customer service and good food, good quality.
We want to make sure that we give that to them each and every time they come and visit us.
The sense of pride that we have in the quality, the consistency of our food carries over to everything we do in the stores. That's Taco Casa.
Ooh, Halloween, the season for goblins, witches, and scary good fun. But Walgreens knows it's also the doorbell never stops season, and we can't run out of candy season. So let Walgreens fill your Halloween bowl fast with pickup in as little as 30 minutes and delivery in as little as 1 hour. Because if it's needed in a poof season, it's Walgreens season.
This week, buy one, get one free snack and fun-sized candy bags. Of equal or lesser price. Offer valid through 10/29 while supplies last. Restrictions apply. See Walgreens.com for details.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Don't have much time. DC, what are your thoughts on Chris Fowler and what he said about Burton that added gasoline to the conversation around him? People saying he struck, he punched, he hit, he pushed the young lady. I don't agree with what he did, but I understand how it could happen in that particular moment, in that season. If the young man does that type of action in another environment, then you probably have some type of problem you need to really, really focus on. Him reacting in that moment, that season, I can get it because I was a different animal, literally in the intensity of a football environment and game. And to the fans, the game was over. To him, that hadn't even settled yet because of the shock of the loss, et cetera. And there's a different level of adrenaline going on. But the fact that Fowler and ESPN misrepresented that, what are your thoughts there? I thought that was bad. And you may not have heard some of the stuff that's happened off the field with that, but
yeah, I think it was very bad. I think it was very bad of Chris Fowler to say something that he didn't have all the information on, and that it wasn't an anger management class. It was a counseling session. I mean, they ran a segment weeks ago about Alabama's counseling sessions for mental health and how we do, and so I think that would have been much better to spotlight at that time than some speculation of anger management. I think he used the wrong choice of words and really should have just not said anything at all.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think we don't all know the story. We don't know all the situation, and I agree with you also. There's no reason for him to do that, and he shouldn't do that. I'm not condoning what he did, but I'm saying that we should respect the process of what Coach Saban has done and how he's trying to get the young man some help.
Yeah, and the beauty of it, we don't know what the punishment is. We assume that the best thing to correct somebody's behavior as fans or fans of the opposing team, suspend them. Well, that doesn't always work. It's just like raising kids. Some kids, I had 4 different kids, and one of them I could threaten to spank, and she would lose it, and the other ones I had to put some rod to, right, Xavier?
Yeah, he says other ones. He just means me.
No, I don't mean just you, but you did get your fair share.
I mean, look at just the opposite things of things. You know, we when someone in an NFL game runs on the field to protest or with a sign or with something, they're not doing anything to hurt anyone. You know, the whole fans cheer when a player tackles them or clotheslines them or knocks them down. And so that's the aggression that you have on a football field. It's why we don't rush the field. It's why you shouldn't rush the field. I mean, can you imagine doing that in the bullfight or a hockey game?
Or gladiator or anywhere.
Gladiator, or that's why you don't jump the fence at the zoo to run into the lions then either. So, I mean, you don't want to do things like that, and that's why there's rules against it. Now, I'm not condoning what was done. Everyone is responsible for their own actions. I mean, he should have known better. But he didn't. He couldn't control himself. That's why he needs help. That's why he needs counseling. And that's why he needs to go through whatever process the punishment's going to be. And we don't even know what that punishment is. So I think it was out of turn for anyone to speak of it, not including myself, because we don't know. I think Chris Fowler's no different than you and I. We don't know.
We don't know.
So why?
And we don't know if there's more punishment coming because more information came in, or we don't know if more information came in and less punishment was earned. So we don't know that. DC, tell them where they can find you, and throw your ugly in there before you do that.
Well, my ugly, I mentioned my ugly earlier. I don't know if you heard me or not. It was a complete lack of running game. That's my ugly. You can find me at DCCapstoneReport.com, DC Capstone Report Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50. The podcast is already up, and it was a great homecoming game. We haven't talked about homecoming festivities and the 92 championship team being honored. But my friend Lance Shores has some great pictures up at RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com of all the festivities at homecoming. So go there and get your pictures.
All right. That's DC Capstone Report, DCCapstoneReport.com. Joins us every Tuesday. And DC, we'll circle back on anything we missed this week when we get you back next week, and we'll talk LSU. That game is a lot more important now and a lot bigger game than it was a week ago. So looking forward to that. Follow at DavidCott50, and you'll be in the know. DCCapstoneReport.com. Thank you, sir. And for X's and O's,
you have a great day, Martin. Roll Tide.
XO Sports, Martin Houston Show. Hey, that's Aiden Dollins pressing all the right buttons. This is the Martin Houston Show, and we're reminding you to trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.